B2B Cambodia, the portal for business use in Cambodia.
I'm Darshana Gauchan, and this is a special episode of B2B Cambodia's Vietnam series, where we speak with leaders and professionals of Vietnam's vibrant business landscape. Today, I'll be speaking with Rodney Stone, Executive Director at Stone Accounting Group, an Australian-based accounting firm with operations in Southeast Asia, about Vietnam's outsourcing industry. Hi, Rodney. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
No problems. It's a pleasure to be here.
Right, so could you please first introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background and how you found yourself here in Vietnam?
I started an accounting practice when I was 26 years old in Australia, and then that grew into quite a significant accounting practice with 5 offices and quite a few staff. When I got to a stage where I was looking at expanding, we merged a couple of accounting practices together, we folded a few others in, and then I sold that practice, and then that gave me the opportunity to exit the industry for a bit. And it was around that time that I was coming over to Vietnam doing some charity work over here at the time. So when I sold the accounting practice, it seemed like a logical step to step out of the industry, throw myself into more charity work over here. Stone Accounting Group is our second accounting practice. I have a business partner in Australia, Lydia Atwell, so her and I work really closely together. We're an end-to-end accounting service practice, but we have a couple of different elements to our business. So on top of just having a practice where we service clients with their tax, their compliance work, financial statements and business advisory work, we also have positioned ourselves to assist other accounting firms to manage their practices. The other element to our business is outsourcing. So in Australia and the Western world, North America and the UK as well, there's a severe and acute shortage of accountants. And what that leads to is that when accountants are trying to get their work done, it's very difficult to find new accountants to come on board and assist them. But we can provide a service where we can assist accountants to get their work done and help with their workflows and take that pressure off a little bit.
Can you explain what outsourcing actually is and how it works?
Outsourcing is when you take a set of tasks or a set of jobs from your office and you give it to someone else to do. That's it in its simplest form.
Right.
Outsourcing is where you acknowledge that you've got a set of tasks in the office. They might be done, they might be repetitive tasks, or they might be project tasks. And you take those tasks and you give them to someone else to do.
In the world, when people think of outsourcing, countries that come to mind mostly are like India and the Philippines, for example. For Vietnam, maybe it's not quite as front of mind for most people. So can you share a little bit about what that scene is like here in Vietnam?
In a general sense, you're right. India and Philippines are probably the countries that would come to mind before Vietnam.
Right.
But in some specific industries, especially the accounting industry, and especially the accounting industry in Australia, Vietnam has been the pioneer, and Vietnam is probably the country that comes to our mind first.
Oh, wow.
And it comes down to probably one outsource provider here that 20-something years ago they set up with a goal with just a few staff, a goal just to provide services to Australian accounting firms to do only Australian accounting compliance work. We formed a relationship with them about 18 years ago. So from our point of view, outsourcing to Vietnam is very common in the Australian accounting industry. It's been India and the Philippines that have probably played catch up to try and catch up to Vietnam. Yeah.
The team here in Vietnam, when they are helping a client that's back in Australia, for example, in terms of the accounting standards, the Australian accounting standards and whatever they study here in Vietnam will likely be different. So how does it work? Do they have to also get certified in Australia to be able to?
It's a really good point. So over here in Vietnam, they have a tax law and a Corporations Act that's slightly different to Australia, and when you're doing work for the Australian market, you have to know the Australian market and be highly trained in that. There's another organisation called CPA Australia, who have a very good presence here in Vietnam, a very strong presence, and they provide resources and training programs that enable an outsource provider who wants to set up here. They can take a graduate out of RMIT who's done an accounting major, and they can have studied the Australian accounting standards, and then they can go into a CPA course and become a qualified, certified practicing accountant without even leaving Vietnam. So that having those two organisations and all the others that are in the industry as well, that gives any young budding accountant going into university here in Vietnam the opportunity to become to gain the highest qualification in the accounting industry purely just by staying here in Vietnam.
So to just close off the interview, what do you see as the future of outsourcing here in Vietnam?
It's only going to grow more. It's a critical situation that the accounting industry is in the Western world, and that's what's driven a lot of accounting firms that have thought about outsourcing over the last 3 or 4 years. It's that shortage of skilled labour and skilled accountants back in Australia and the UK and America that's driven them to consider outsourcing and force them to do it in the last couple of years. So the market here is going to be growing, it's going to be expanding. So the future here is very good for outsourcing in the accounting industry.
Thank you so much for your time today. I feel like definitely learned a lot about the outsourcing scene, specifically in accounting here in Vietnam, and it's amazing to hear about the skill sets and the potential that's here in the country. Thank you so much.
No problems at all. It was great to talk. Thank you.
You've been with B2B Cambodia. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more from our Vietnam series.